guys, welcome back. Today I'm finally going to be getting down to reviewing the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I know some of you have been requesting for it for quite a while. Now, this launched I think 2 months back in the US and EU. In Singapore it's only just launched a few weeks ago, so we're about a month or so behind, but finally getting down to it. Now, just a quick makeup shout out before I get into the review proper. I am wearing the PatMcgrath CelestialDivinity palette. This is part of the holiday collection and it is gorgeous, but also not a very everyday sort of a palette. So as you can see, it's very purple, it's very green, it's very topaz, a lot of nice jewel tones. On my lips, I am wearing Velvet Fawn by LisaEldridge. This is just an amazing formula, but I especially love this color. I was looking for a slightly richer nude or beige tone that wouldn't have too much pink or peach in it, and this one just rocks. Alright, back to the foundation. Let's have a look at the claims. Now, NARS says this is a new take on matte. It's supposed to be comfortable with 16-hour wear and full natural looking coverage. Don't we all want that? Now, it's supposed to be color true, oxidation resistant, transfer proof, and shine proof. It's also recommended for normal, combination, and oily skin types. Now, I do appreciate that they don't say this is for all skin types. I'm pretty tired of brands just telling everyone their formulas are for all skin types. There is no foundation formula that is great for all skin types. Now, I have combination dry skin, meaning patches of my face are very dry and certain other areas are more normal-ish, with a few spots that tend to be just slightly oilier. Then again, I'm always game to try long wear matte foundations because we live in Singapore, so technically to a large extent I kind of have to treat my skin as if it were, slightly oilier than it actually is, simply because of the weather. I can start out with pretty dry skin in the morning, but usually by mid-afternoon, if it's a sunny day here, it's usually a shiny mess anyway. I'm testing this in the shade Fiji, which is light 5. Now, in some of their other formulas, I will use Deauville, which is light 4, but this is a formula that is supposed to be oxidation resistant, in which case you should try to match your skin exactly. I also use the shade Alaska for some of their tinted moisturizers, just in case you were wondering. Because this is the Soft Matte Complete Foundation, I am going to be popping the Soft Matte Complete Concealer on top of it. Now, this is the OG Soft Matte formula. The foundation actually came after. So the concealers have been around for quite a few years now, and I've been using them ever since they launched. I really like the texture, especially on days when I just want to very quickly just, mute down some of my dark circles, discolorations, but not have a very heavy or greasy looking concealer on my skin. Then I'm very likely to reach for this because I find the texture to be very similar to the legendary Clé de Pearl concealer stick, except that one is like $100+ a pop, and this is actually far more affordable. I used to have to mix 2 shades though, 2.5 Creme Brulee, which is a little bit light and a little bit too pink, and then medium 1 Custard, which was, the correct undertone but just way too deep to really brighten under the eyes. They now have a couple of shades which are much better matches for me. I have NC 20 to 25 skin tone depending on my level of tan at the time. So right now I think I'm sort of in between, but I can use both 2.6 Cafe con Leche and 2.2 Nougatine. Now Nougatine is kind of like a neutral warm light-ish shade, which would probably work for you if you have NC20 skin. 2.6 Cafe con Leche is again a neutral warm shade, which I think would work if you are closer to an NC25. Now this foundation is really matte in texture. You can feel it grabbing onto the concealer as you are tapping it on. I find I need the heat from my fingers to get the concealer to really melt on and sheer out. Usually it shears out really, really well and very easily. A lot of times concealers are not 100% opaque, so after you go on with it, some of the darkness will still show through. So this is where you can see where you want to just very, very tactically spot apply a little bit of a brightening shade just to completely make it disappear. Always tap the coverage in because you don't want to rub and remove the concealer you applied. So my current routine is puff and then flick off the excess, only on areas where I want to blur pores and texture. I don't even go under my eyes these days anymore because I realize that my concealer cakes less and creases less when I don't apply powder up to here. Because mine is creasing not because of oiliness. My concealers are creasing because my skin is dry, so powder is not helping. Now, first impressions of this formula, it goes on very silky, it's very creamy, it actually blends and shears out very easily as well. It's not hard to apply and blend out. However, this has a little bit of that quick dry texture, so you do want to be careful if you're blending around with your brush to double check in a mirror after you're done, because sometimes they can gather around your pores and you just want to do a quick pat over your skin to take it out. When applied correctly, this is a foundation that just completely smooths over texture. It looks really seamless and really beautiful, and it does blur pores. The other thing I noticed is that this formula does set half a tone deeper than when you squeeze it out of the tube. Now that is not oxidation. I have had to repeat this many times. With a lot of matte and long wear foundations, a lot of these solvents that are used actually make the pigments appear lighter than they are in the tube. So what you are seeing is the foundation setting to its true color. Oxidation is what happens after a few hours typically. When the formula has sat on your face for a while, it's been exposed to heat and light and air and also sweat and acidity on your skin. The formula sort of breaks down and changes, and then the pigments go sort of like a deeper orangey or browny tone than they originally were supposed to be. Foundation setting to its true shade about a minute or so after application is not oxidation. I did notice as well that even though this is a formula that is matte and seems to dry down quickly, it does take a full minute or two for it to completely dry, because you will maybe still feel a slight amount of moisture or tackiness on your skin for just a while longer. So don't go rubbing around in your face, just let it be for a while. And that's it for the application and first impression segment. I'm gonna head off now, go about the rest of my day, grab some lunch and all that. I will be back at the end just to show you how much, if any, has transferred off onto the back of my face mask and how it's sitting on my skin. Hey folks, it's now almost 6 p.m. and I've been wearing this foundation for a little over 7 hours now. I was out and about for a couple of hours earlier, walking quite a bit in the heat and also in air conditioning. So I definitely been sweating. What you're seeing right now, I think, is mostly the sweat, or I don't think it's a ton of oil, but we'll find out in a bit. I was wearing a face mask, so I'm gonna let you see if you can detect any lines of demarcation or patches where the foundation has worn off. There's also minimal creasing under my eyes, but do bear in mind that I did not powder this entire area. I pretty much just applied concealer over it and just let it be, because like I said, when I over powder my dry zones, it tends to get cakey and crease more. So this has actually survived very well. I'm going to show you the mask that I was wearing earlier. I think you should be able to see a bit of staining around the nose bridge where the mask was tighter, and also a little bit more down here around my chin area, because this mask was just tighter and rubbing around here. Now I'm going to blot off a little bit of the sweat first. Now, a little tiny bit of staining on the tissue, I think simply because some of the oils from my skin have started to break down the foundation a bit, but it's not an excessive amount, just a teeny tiny tint. I'm now going to use a blotting sheet to see if any more is going to come off. Some oil, of course a little bit of it has been taken off on the tissue, but no makeup and no transfer once that initial little bit comes off. This looks really, really good up close. The moment I lifted off the shine and the moisture, it's right back to looking really, really airbrushed again. I can hardly see my pores even with the hand mirror this close. A little bit of the dark pigmentation on the scab here is starting to peek through, but it's still not obvious. I really need to hold the mirror this close to see all the little flaws start to come out. Just a quick note on the color as well. I don't see any oxidation. The color is not changed. It's not gone orange or brown or anything like that. The pigments and the formula have not broken down on top of my skin either. It's just looking really, really good. And I wouldn't be surprised if this foundation could last me for like up to 12 hours and still look decent. Not perfect by 12 hours, but probably decent. Now, in terms of the formulation, the overall texture and coverage, etc., I would say the closest comparison I would have for this might be the Shu Uemura Unlimited Matte Foundation. That one also has this very beautiful, airy, light, matte texture plus coverage on the skin. The only difference I would say is I do like how this builds better than I do the Shu Unlimited Matte Foundation. That one I kind of feel starts to look a tiny bit heavier. If you try to build on a second layer, you start to see a little bit of the texture on the skin. Whereas for this, I could just pat it on as a concealer on top of the first layer of foundation as a base, and it would still look completely seamless. So that is pretty impressive. This has lasted very well over the course of the day, although, in the initial application, I found it a little bit dry feeling for my taste. But as with all things foundation, sometimes I think how it feels and how it sits and performs over the next 4, 5, 6 to 8 hours is more important than how it feels in the initial moment when you first apply it. And that's it for this review. If you guys have tried it, please let me know what you think of it, because I am very curious if you have a different skin type to me, if oilier skin, blemish-prone skin, or extremely dry skin. Have you tried this and what was your experience with it? Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.